What about women as non-pastoral teachers, right? So let me give you an example of this. Here is Krista Bontrager, she's fantastic. Just to frame the debate, for anybody who doesn't know, there's two different sides. You're going to need to know these words. I'm going to use these words a lot, right? Complementarian and egalitarian. The different sides represent two different views. Now, within those views, there's variety, but the two different views are the complementarian view, which holds that women and men are equal in value, but they have different roles, and so there's different functions that they have either in the home or, in particular, for today's discussion in this series, in the church. So an example of a complementarian view that pretty much all complementarians agree on is that women are not supposed to be in the role of elder in the local church. Then there's debate on what other things they can do or should or shouldn't do. And then the egalitarian view, egalitarian coming from the word like equal, right? That there's this equality in person and in role. And there's no limit regarding authority. There's no limit to what a woman should or shouldn't do in the church. So women can be elders or anything else for that matter. So the two words complementarian, they use this term because they're trying to say we have complementary and different callings, but we're equal in value and purpose and dignity and things like that. The egalitarian saying, no, there's complete equality across the board in not only person, but also in functions. And so we're going to dig into those issues. How I view this topic is this. This is also important for me to lay this out. I don't like doing a lot of introductory comments, but for today's video, I got to. In the following videos, we're just going to get straight to the meat of that topic, that video. Today's the introduction. Today's framing the discussion in a way that I hope will be helpful for you, and that's the whole point, is to help you. So this is a secondary issue. This is the first thing I want to say about it. This is totally a secondary issue, by which I mean wherever you fall on this topic, you're still a Christian. Okay? This is not... Look, sincere believers whose walk with Jesus I do not question. They are on both sides of this issue, and I mean that very genuinely. I'm not afraid to throw down a gauntlet and say on this topic, like, this is not secondary. Like, this is I will die on this hill. Like, I'm not going to die on the hill of women in ministry. I'm not. But I realize it's important, so we're going to talk about it. So there are believers on both sides genuinely seeking to honor Jesus, and even if some of them are wrong, I still don't think it's worth dividing over. I don't think it's worth dividing over. I don't think I should be like, let's say you're complementarian and you meet a woman and she's like, yes, I'm a pastor. You don't have to go like, can I talk to them? I mean, it's like, it's a secondary issue. But, okay, yes, it's secondary, but that doesn't mean it doesn't matter. So the other problem is this, and this is why I'm doing this series. It's huge in its application in your lives. Your ministry, women, your ministry, your marriage, or your whole church, your whole fellowship, you may be deciding what churches you can or can't attend based upon their views on the topic of women in ministry. You might be deciding what teachers you can listen to or what role in ministry you can have or how to respond to your husband or your wife based on your views of these issues. So it's huge in impact, even though it's not impacting the gospel. It's still huge in impacting our lives in a practical way. Obviously, there's the issue of women pastors, and that's complicated too, because what do you mean by pastor? We'll talk about all that as we go. There's also questions of women as deacons. I mean, now most people, when they hear women in ministry, they just think women as pastors, like a lead pastor, Sunday morning services. But what about women as deacons or women as a youth leader? What if the youth is 13 years old? Is that okay? What about worship leaders, women as worship leaders? And do you have special sort of like caveats on them, their ability and how much they talk as they lead worship? Does it matter? What about women as non-pastoral teachers, right? So let me give you an example of this. Here is Krista Bontrager, she's fantastic. I mean, the content she's sharing is really important. It's really great. She's thoughtful. She's articulate. She's, a non-pastoral teacher. She does it online. She has a whole ministry where she does this kind of stuff. Or other people like Jen Wilkin, or Wilkins. I think it's Jen Wilkins. This is someone who Josh Lewis recommended to me. So I'll just throw his name out there. Elizabeth Lewis Hall, another one that you might throw out there. These are people who have real ministries that are not pastoral exactly, not a biblical elder role. How do you view this? Now, if you're egalitarian, all of these questions are easy. None of it matters. If you're complementarian, you realize that we need thoughtful and nuanced understandings of these things. Another example would be women theologians. Like, look at Nancy Pearcey. Nancy Pearcey's brilliant. Like she's actually brilliant. That's not something you could say about everybody. And she has all kinds of important and thoughtful things to share. She's written books that are very influential, and many people have benefited from them. Are we supposed to like have an opinion about this? Or should we look at Nancy Pearcey and make a judgment about the rightness or wrongness of the way she conducts herself based upon our views on this topic? Well, you're going to do it whether you like it or not. You're going to make a judgment. Let's make it an informed judgment. That's what I'm suggesting here. Or women as seminary teachers. There's a whole thing on that, right? John Piper thinks women shouldn't be seminary teachers. Others would say, no, they can. Yeah, because it's not the elder role. This is along the complementarian side. Or women who are just authors of other things, like my friend, Natasha Crane, who, believe it, this book that's on the screen there, Faithfully Different, it's the first book I've actually done a written endorsement for. Because I think it's a fantastic book. I mean, is that good that I did that? That I endorse this book? I mean, it was written by a woman. It's going to be used for the education of Christians. And I mean, let's just put all these issues on the table and let's talk about them. Let's work through them. And let's make sure that we apply them thoughtfully to our lives. What about a woman who's a guest speaker, say on a Sunday morning? I don't know if Johnny Erickson does Sunday mornings or not. I have no idea. But let's suppose that she's a guest speaker at your church, really famous and very powerful speaker. And is that okay on a Sunday morning? Or do you relegate that to a different time? These are like, here's the thing. As a guy, these things never occur to me. But for a woman who's complementarian, or for someone who's making decisions about someone else in ministry, these are questions you have to ask, even if you've already answered the elder question. So women who are bloggers, who are podcasters, women who have YouTube channels like Elisa Childers, these are all women that pretty much everybody that I'm familiar with, I'm recommending here, they're great sources, right? Elisa Childers, great channel, 142,000 subscribers. I hope she gets a lot more. But how do we apply these topics to their lives, right? And I think Elisa is complementarian in her views. So how do we process all this stuff? How do we apply it into our lives? She has more impact than probably any pastor she's ever sat under right now, which I'm cool with. But is Scripture weighing in on this? There's also interviews. What if you just interview a woman, right? If you're complementarian, what you think? Here's me interviewing these different women who are sharing their different views on theology and apologetics and the Christian life. And I'm interviewing them, right? They're the ones who are bringing the knowledge. Is that okay? Is that all right? A woman who's a board member of a church, or maybe a parachurch ministry, or evangelist, or conference speaker. Would you vote for a woman president? Would you, I mean, based on whether she's a woman or not, forget the party and all that other stuff, just based on she's a woman, does that affect your vote? Does that impact you in some way? What about a woman who goes to work while the man stays at home? All of these things start falling down on the issue of women in ministry. So it becomes this massive topic that we have to talk about, all these issues. A woman as a business owner, a woman as a boss. Can you have a woman as a boss? Will you respect her the same way? Do you follow her orders? Or do you have a problem with that? Can a woman correct a man's theology? There's women out there who are like, look, there's a guy who said this weird thing. I'm not sure if I should speak up or how I should speak, right? And my problem is the uncertainty that affects people on these issues is unhealthy, and it causes a lot of women to hold back from things they could do, even though I am still complementarian. We'll talk about all that as we go. So, can a woman correct a man's theology? Can a woman serve communion? My point of bringing all these examples up is just to show you how big this issue is pragmatically. How hugely it impacts people's lives in such a great diversity of ways that aren't just about church leadership.